Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nick Hanna. I'm the U.S. Attorney here in Los Angeles. I'm pleased to be joined here today by federal, state, and local law enforcement leaders to announce the indictment of 83 members and associates of the Mexican Mafia and a series of arrests that were made early this morning. By this action, we have dealt a major blow to a violent and notorious prison gang in our country. We are here today to announce the results of Operation Dirty Thirds, an FBI-led investigation into the Mexican Mafia. The Mexican Mafia has operated for many years in the Los Angeles County jails and the state prison system, and it controls many of the Hispanic street gangs in Southern California. This operation is part of our joint commitment to reduce violent crime on our streets by aggressively pursuing hardcore, violent gang members. Working with our counterparts at the FBI, the Sheriff's Department, and other law enforcement agencies, prosecutors in my office have obtained 2 indictments that charge a total of 83 defendants, which includes 3 full members of the Mexican Mafia and other high-ranking members of dozens of Southern California street gangs. One indictment outlines a criminal enterprise that was engaged in a wide range of criminal activity in and around Pomona, including violent assaults, kidnapping, a carjacking that ended in a shooting, and the total control of Hispanic street gangs in Pomona. A second indictment charges the majority of the 83 defendants with participating in a racketeering enterprise that controlled drug trafficking, extortion, assaults, and other illegal activity in the LA County jails, and directed the activities of various violent street gangs operating in our community. This morning, in a major coordinated takedown, more than 500 law enforcement officers and agents arrested 32 individuals charged under the indictments. Another 35 are already in state custody on other charges and who will be brought here to federal court for trial. 16 subjects are outstanding. In my comments this morning, I want to focus on what I will call the Jails Indictment, which outlines a criminal enterprise run by the Mexican Mafia that controlled drug trafficking and extortion activities throughout the LA County jail system. The indictment focuses on Jose Landa Rodriguez, who was the leader of the Mexican Mafia in the LA County jail system, and who oversaw a group of gang leaders and soldiers who imposed his will on inmates in the facilities. The Jails Indictment alleges that Landa Rodriguez controlled all drug trafficking in the jails. The organization would arrange for cocaine, methamphetamine, and heroin to be smuggled into the jails, often through accomplices who hid the drugs in body cavities and who got themselves intentionally arrested on minor charges. The organization would then sell drugs to inmates. And if anyone else wanted to sell drugs in the jails, they had to pay a tax to the Mexican Mafia. They required 1/3 of the product from any non-Mexican Mafia source. This 1/3 tax is what led to the name of the investigation, Operation Dirty Thirds. The Mexican Mafia also extorted the entire Latino jail population by requiring that they donate a portion of their commissary purchases to a kitty. The items collected in the kitty were then sold by the Mexican Mafia to other inmates to generate additional funds for the organization. There were also fines imposed on gang members who violated Mexican Mafia rules, as well as an extortion plot targeting the Mongols motorcycle gang, which was designed to generate additional funds for the Mexican Mafia. In order to maintain their position within the jails, members of the organization plotted to have inmates and others on the streets viciously beaten, stabbed, kidnapped, and killed. These attacks were designed to instill discipline for violating Mexican Mafia rules and to punish those who mishandled drug and extortion proceeds or who otherwise didn't follow instructions. In some cases where the organization could not reach their intended targets, they targeted family members. The Mexican Mafia had a range of supporters that participated in the racketeering enterprise. For example, there were a number of associates who smuggled drugs into the jails. And there were people who passed messages directing criminal activities between those in the jail and gang leaders on the streets. This communications network, which often included wives and girlfriends, was a vital link that allowed incarcerated Mexican Mafia leaders to communicate with gang leaders on the streets. But wives and girlfriends were not the only link to the outside world. This morning, we also arrested a lawyer who is accused of being a key facilitator for the organization. Attorney Gabrielle Chavez is charged with participating in the criminal organization by ferrying, under the cloak of the attorney-client privilege, communications regarding assaults, murder plots, and drug trafficking to and from numerous Mexican Mafia members, including some incarcerated at the Supermax facility in Colorado and others at the Pelican State Prison. The indictment also cites intercepted communications indicating that the lawyer provided members of the conspiracy with information about individuals who were believed to be cooperating with authorities. They discussed the laundering of illicit proceeds, participation in extortion, and witness tampering. The indictments unsealed today allege violations of the RICO statute, the Violent Crimes in Aid of Racketeering statute, as well as a host of narcotics, firearms, and fraud offenses. If they are convicted, many of the defendants will face decades in federal prison, and they will be scattered to prisons all over the country, far from their power base here in Southern California. With this morning's operation, we have delivered a significant blow to a cold-blooded prison gang and their associates. The Jails Indictment dismantled a criminal enterprise that affected many of the jail's 15,000-plus inmates and the overall security of the facilities. Today's action is not an isolated event. We will continue to use every tool at our disposal to fight the Mexican Mafia and crack down on violent gangs in our communities. I want the public to know that law enforcement in Southern California is united in this fight against violent criminals and street gangs. And I want to express my sincere appreciation for all of our law enforcement partners, including the FBI, the Sheriff's Department, the Pomona Police Department, the DEA, and the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. I also want to recognize and thank our prosecutors who brought this case, Sean Nelson and Max Shiner. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Assistant Director in charge of the FBI LA Field Office, Paul Delacourt.
Good afternoon. My name is Paul Delacourt. I'm the Assistant Director in charge of the Los Angeles office of the FBI. As the U.S. Attorney indicated, this is an investigation targeting the Mexican Mafia. Mexican Mafia is a violent prison gang which controls drug distribution and other illegal activities within the California penal system and on the streets of Southern California by organizing Hispanic street gang members for the purpose of establishing a larger network for the Mexican Mafia's illegal activities. The Mexican Mafia is comprised of the most dangerous individuals among Southern California street gangs, some with extensive criminal histories, some who wield significant influence across large numbers of gang members. Essentially, the Mexican Mafia is a gang of gangs. The goal of this investigation was to target the Mexican Mafia's criminal operations within the Los Angeles County jail system, to reduce inmate-on-inmate violence, to decrease the amount of contraband being smuggled into the institution, to lessen the control that the Mexican Mafia exerted across the LA jail system. The investigation also targeted some of the most significant gang members operating within the city of Pomona. As the U.S. Attorney outlined, the investigation uncovered a variety of crimes that led to today's arrests. Beginning in July of 2013, the FBI's San Gabriel Valley Safe Streets Task Force began investigating drug smuggling and later a series of violent assaults, which were committed within the Los Angeles County jail system at the direction of the Mexican Mafia from both within and outside the prison walls. The Safe Streets Task Force learned that the Mexican Mafia had a very organized hierarchy within the Los Angeles County jail system. They had their own appointed leaders, known as shot callers, at every level of the jail system. They enjoyed a constant revenue stream based on the collection of taxes imposed on drug sales inside the jail, and they imposed rules that had to be followed. Violent assaults, like those outlined in the indictment and depicted in some of the photos here today, were the punishment for violating those rules. The inmate assaults alleged in the indictment are vicious. They're the primary reason the Mexican Mafia was able to maintain a level of control that they had in the Los Angeles County jail system. Assaults were a powerful deterrent for anyone thinking of going against the gang's authority. We expect that taking these individuals into federal custody will impact the structure of the gang and their ability to maintain control and violence in the prisons and on the streets. Over 3 years of work by the Safe Streets Task Force at the local and federal level went into the investigation to get to this point. Investigators from many agencies brought to bear their resources and capabilities in order to reach this result and work seamlessly together throughout the investigation. Early this morning, over 500 law enforcement agents and officers, including 6 SWAT teams, participated in an operation to simultaneously execute arrest warrants across Los Angeles County to safely apprehend the subjects in this case. Of the 83 defendants who were charged in the indictments, 32 were taken into custody by agents and officers this morning without incident. 35 defendants charged in the indictment are already in custody on related and unrelated charges. 16 defendants charged in this indictment are considered to be fugitives and are being sought by law enforcement today. If you have information about these fugitives, their names and identifiers will be made available after the press conference. If you have information about these fugitives, I urge you to call 911, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, or the FBI. We consider these fugitives armed and dangerous. I'd like to recognize our strong partnerships within the Los Angeles area law enforcement community and express my thanks to the many agencies involved in today's operation. First, I'd like to acknowledge the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, whose Operation Safe Jails team played a critical role throughout this case. Their close and continuous collaboration was critical throughout the investigation. I'd also like to recognize the Drug Enforcement Administration, ATF, Homeland Security Investigations, California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, of course the Pomona Police Department, and the Department of Child and Family Services. The charges in the indictment outline the scope of the conspiracy, from the shot callers to the secretaries or runners to the dealers to the smugglers. Violence in jails often spills over into the streets and adversely impacts our communities. We hope that today's arrests will serve as a deterrent, and ultimately they'll have a significant impact on criminal activity and control by this violent gang. Thank you. I'd like to introduce Sheriff Jim McDonald.
Thank you very much. In recent weeks, and especially today, I'm hearing from our federal partners, both the Department of Justice monitors and the FBI, about a profound change that's underway inside the LA County jail system. A system defined by its recent past that had much to prove to our public in terms of its dedication to the protection and care of our inmates. 4 years of reforms, new leadership, a mandate for cooperation and transparency with our federal partners are testaments to the commitment the LASD has to transformational change. It's also a testament to the talent and desire for excellence our deputies have. That desire just needed a chance to grow. No doubt they rose to the challenge presented by this multi-year federal, state, and local investigation. Approximately 250 LASD deputies and sergeants participated in serving arrest warrants at 20 different locations today. The FBI case agent tells me that this task force could not have accomplished this multi-year major investigation without the cooperation and skills of our Operation Safe Jails unit and the Jail Investigations Unit. Since 2014, we nearly tripled the number of detectives investigating jail-related crimes. Together, along with the LASD Criminal Intelligence Bureau analysts, we work with the FBI to decode thousands of phone calls and messages being transmitted by members of one of the most sophisticated criminal enterprises in the nation. Reporters and advocates should ask questions about the rate and causes of violence in our jails, but this operation shows the depth and breadth of a large, complex jail system. It is a system like no other. We have nearly twice the population of the next largest jail system, Rikers Island in New York City, but about half the deputy-to-inmate staff ratio. Our jails can be a dangerous place. On a daily basis, we manage more than 17,000 inmates. Many of those inmates have histories of committing violent crimes. drug trafficking and extortion of our inmates by the Mexican Mafia can be a daily occurrence. Violence and threats of violence are routinely aimed at our inmates as well as toward our personnel. Operation Dirty Thirds lifts the veil on only one aspect of this complicated factors behind inmate-on-inmate assaults and their dangers to our custody staff. Many assaults have been directed and carried out by the Mexican Mafia and are documented in this investigation that took a little more than 3 years. Also, we want to identify and prevent narcotics contraband from being smuggled into the Los Angeles County jail system. On a number of occasions, AB 109 offenders who got themselves intentionally arrested for minor violations with the specific goal of concealing drugs inside their bodies and smuggling narcotics into our jail. On another occasion, an attorney abusing his position smuggled narcotics into the jail during a visit with his client. Today, we made a dramatic impact on reducing the influence of the Mexican Mafia and the violence it sponsors on our streets and within our jails. We will continue to fight this scourge on our communities and strive to make our jails safer for all of our inmates as well as our staff. And this operation is not the end of what will be an ongoing effort and investigation. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department and its partners on the San Gabriel Valley Safe Streets Task Force will continue to investigate the Mexican Mafia and their activities within the Los Angeles County Jail. I'd like to offer our sincere thanks to our partners at the FBI, the ATF, the DEA, CDCR, and of course the Pomona Police Department for their work during the years of this task force. I'd now like to introduce Commander Joe Dempsey, who will just give you an introduction to a video we hope to be able to show at the end of this press conference. Joe?
Actually, I think we're having technical difficulties with the video. Yeah. You were provided a B-roll video. What that video depicts is its examples how the Mexican Mafia moves narcotics, messages, and weapons throughout the Los Angeles County jails. Those images are not directly related to this particular investigation. However, they're offered as examples of what we see on a daily basis. Gang members in our custody will use various methods, including some that are very rudimentary, which you'll see on the video, where they use strings and containers to move contraband, including narcotics and weapons, throughout the jail system. The movement of this contraband is vital to the operation of the Mexican Mafia. Our aging and outdated jails, which you'll see in the video, oftentimes make the movement of this contraband much easier, and they make it more difficult for our staff to stop. The messages that you'll see in the video, what they call kites, are used for the furtherance of their criminal operation, including the ordering of assaults, hits, and the sales of narcotics. Every day, our line deputies, which we have several here today, our Operation Safe Jails deputies and our detectives work diligently to combat this operation, to stem the flow of narcotics into our jails and decrease violence. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. I'd like to introduce Chief Mike Oliveri, the Chief of the Pomona Police Department. Mike.
Well, good afternoon. The Pomona Police Department is the sponsoring agency of the FBI San Gabriel Valley Safe Streets Task Force, which has been headquartered in the Pomona Police Department since 2008. The Pomona Police Department has a large presence on this task force, allowing for excellent collaboration and relationships with our fellow county, state, and federal law enforcement partners. A primary purpose of the Safe Streets Task Force is to conduct criminal investigations involving narcotics, violent crimes, gangs, criminal enterprises operating within the city of Pomona. Through the investigation into the Mexican Mafia's activities in the county jail, we discovered that many of the criminal enterprise leadership were Pomona gang members. Those members have been problems for my community for many, many years. The Pomona Police Department was able to use the Safe Streets Task Force to investigate these Pomona-based gang members and the crimes that they were directing from within the Los Angeles County Jail that were occurring in Pomona and surrounding communities. These crimes included, as you heard, kidnapping, assault with a deadly weapon, extortion, carjacking, attempted murder. The crimes investigated in this case involved some of Pomona's most notorious criminal street gangs, including Pomona's 12th Street, Cherryville, Ghetto Family, and Pomona Sur. Each of these gangs fall under the umbrella of the Mexican Mafia. The San Gabriel Valley Safe Streets Task Force will continue its mission of aggressively investigating gang and narcotics activity in the city of Pomona, and this should serve as a deterrent to any gang member who are considering living in or committing illegal activities. And I want to give special thanks to our law enforcement partners. This is a proud day for me. Thanks to the California Department of Corrections, DEA, FBI, ATF, and our partners at the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. The Pomona Police Department is steadfast in its dedication to making the city of Pomona a safe city for all that come there to work, live, and play. Thank you.
At this time, we'll take any questions that anyone has.
How would you say that was stepped up enforcement or the additional manpower in the jails that brought the intelligence together that paved the way for this investigation and this arrest?
I think that's a jail question.
I didn't hear that.
Can you repeat the question again?
It's about more investigators in the jails. Was that the significant change?
It certainly it increased our ability to provide investigation and support within the jails. This case, as you heard, started off a number of years ago. It started off in Pomona, led us into the LA County jail system, and then the people working the case at that time took it to where it led them, and they were able to establish a number of cases off the original one.
Can you go through the process of taking in an inmate?
Hold on, Dave.
Can you go through the process of when you're taking in an inmate or a suspect into the jail, of checking them for any drugs or weapons?
Yeah. When somebody comes into our custody, many are screened using an X-ray machine to be able to see if they're secreting anything within their body. There are some that refuse to do that, and legally they can do that. Then they're subject to the standard old-time body cavity search coming in. That does not cover what the X-ray machine would, and so they were able to get things into the system. As I mentioned, the AB 109, the realignment, the flash incarceration, where somebody who would violate the law would come in for only a 10-day period, and they may not stay 10 days. They were willing to do that in order to be able to get the narcotics contraband into the jail environment, which would then be sold. So they use the system basically every which way that they possibly can to enhance their revenue.
Sheriff, was Rodriguez in custody at the jail this entire time during the investigation? And what's he in for?
Yes, he was. Was he in for?
Conspiracy.
To
Commit crimes.
Okay. Yeah, he was in custody the entire time. Conspiracy to commit a variety of different crimes and extortion as well.
Was his attorney the one that was arrested?
Yeah, I don't have that information. Do we know?
I'm just wondering how he was able to stay in for so long without having to stay in court. I mean, he just knew how to work the system.
Well, no, he was being held on a number of different charges. So he'd go to court, address it, I'm assuming in this case, address the issues on one charge, but would have a number of different charges pending.
One more point, if I may.
Yeah.
At what point did you target him? You had to reach a point where you knew he was the focal point. Can you give us when that was?
Time-wise? Do you know? Yeah, I'd be speculating. Let me give you Joe Dempsey.
Our Operation Safe Jail deputies work with detectives in identifying the hierarchy of the Mexican Mafia, and which changes on a daily basis. So we know who is in the Mexican Mafia, who is in charge of a jail or the entire system. For this investigation, he was the main player that was in charge of the jails.
You make him sound like he was probably the most powerful man in the county jail.
No, he ran the organization, the Mexican Mafia organization in the jail.
What can you tell us about him? I mean, he's not a guy I remember from talking to a lot of these guys. What gangs he's from on the streets and how long he's been incarcerated, that kind of thing?
I don't have that information.
We'll set you up for that later,
Yeah.
Stan.
We'll get that for you.
This is going to be an unpopular question, but were any jail deputies investigated?
There was no evidence of any indication of impropriety at jail deputies.
Can you, one of you gentlemen, speak to the impact, the positive impact that this can have on communities with the roundup of these individuals?
Let me take a shot at that, and maybe some other folks want to talk about that as well. I think in a few different ways. One is through the control of the jails. The Mexican Mafia was able to control the Hispanic gangs on the streets. And if we disrupt the control of the jails, if we take these people out of the LA County Jail and we incarcerate them in other facilities in which we can control their communications, then their grip on the local gangs will be loosened. We've also indicted a number of associates, a lawyer and others who ferried messages back and forth, who are critical as part of the communications network. Taking those people down is very important to cutting off the communication between these people and the gang members on the street.
Does this break the back of this organization? If they have time, is there somebody else that will take the place, or does it back them up?
As you know, the Mexican Mafia is a long-standing gang, prison gang in this country. I'm not going to say that we've decimated this gang. We have made a very substantial blow against this gang. We've taken out the leader and associates in the LA County jails, and we've taken out quite a few associates who were assisting them. Yes?
There are a number of unindicted co-conspirators mentioned. Are these people cooperators, and were they informants in the jail?
Not going to talk about cooperators or informants.
Who wants the last one? All right, we'll cap two more. But you already had your report, Sam.
I was going to ask your Pomona Police Chief a couple of things about, first of all, I noticed that several of the gangs in Pomona, my understanding some of those gangs actually were not totally friendly to each other. Have you seen a kind of a coalition of gangs forming out of Pomona?
Well, we have, every gang has its own set, but as described here, the Mexican Mafia controlled most of the Hispanic gangs in Pomona. And then by attacking this so aggressively with 83 indictments, what that's going to do is it's going to break up that chain, and the orders that are coming from county jail to do extortion, taxation, acts of violence, we hope to have a significant impact that improves the quality of life.
I was going to ask you also about Michael Lerma. He has been in charge out there for quite a long time. I was wondering if there's any way to, you guys have come across any way of ending that. I've talked to people about Mike Lerma for 10 years or more.
Well, Mike Lerma is no longer going to be in the county jail system. He'll be in the federal prison system over this indictment, and so we're hoping.
In the county jail system?
Well, he's state prison, so he'll be in federal prison now. That's going to disrupt the network.
So, because a lot of this activity occurred behind bars, while these people are awaiting trial, are you moving them to a federal prison while they await trial, or how are you going to ensure that they're not continuing their activity while they're awaiting trial?
They'll be moved to a federal facility while they're awaiting trial.
And that's all in other states?
No, they'll be here while they're awaiting trial.
Okay, just kind of like dovetailing off of that. So all of those who are indicted are going to be in federal custody, taken out of county and state jails to, again, to disrupt this network of communication.
The ones that we've arrested today are in federal custody. The ones that we're currently in state custody are being written over to federal custody.
So again, the belief is that by doing that, by moving them all into federal custody, taking them off the streets, taking them out of state and county jails, that ultimately is what delivers the blow to this enterprise.
Yes, and ultimately trial and conviction and incarceration. Yes.
Last one right here.
Do you know if any of the 83 defendants are undocumented immigrants?
There are most of the defendants, as I understand it, are U.S. citizens. I believe that Landa Rodriguez is not a U.S. citizen.
Just one?
We have 2 to 3.
2 to 3.
Total.
2 to 3 total out of the 83.
The video is available. Do you want to walk through it? You guys want to do that? Okay, let's get that up on the screen if we can. Watch that.
I don't think it works.
Here we go. Start from the top.
This is what I spoke about as far as them moving